Beneath the blazing California sun, amid echoing laughter and lively footsteps at the Willow Creek Wildlife Sanctuary, a magical story is about to unfold, defying the boundaries of heart and memory. Nia, a silverback gorilla with eyes as deep as an ocean of sorrow, sits motionless in her enclosure, her massive frame curled up as if trying to escape the world. 3 months ago, she lost her beloved child, and since then, the light within her seems to have flickered out. She doesn't eat, doesn't move, doesn't look out anymore. Nia is a shadow of herself, leaving caretakers whispering in fear that she's giving up on life. Visitors pass by, pointing and snapping photos, but none can touch her pain, until a boy steps forward. Lucas Reed, 9 years old, small but with eyes that seem to see into the soul, presses his hand against the glass barrier. In that moment, time stops. Nia lifts her head, her gaze locking onto his, and an invisible spark ignites, bridging two worlds divided by species, by loss, by 6 long years. What's happening? Can a boy awaken a heart that stopped beating? Get ready, because this story will make you believe that love can revive broken hearts and illuminate even the deepest darkness. The late August sun burned over the sprawling grounds of Willow Creek, its golden rays glinting off winding paths packed with families. Laughter echoed, mingling with the squawk of parrots and the distant roar of a lion. Kids darted between exhibits, sneakers kicking up dust, while parents pushed strollers loaded with juice boxes and sunscreen. It was the kind of summer day that felt alive with possibility. But in the gorilla sanctuary, tucked behind a grove of towering redwoods, the air carried a heavier weight. Nia sat motionless in the shade of a weathered boulder, her broad shoulders slumped, her dark eyes fixed on the earth as if it held answers she'd stopped seeking. She hadn't eaten in days. She barely moved. The keepers, their radios crackling with worry, watched from a distance, their voices low with dread. "She's slipping away," one murmured. "Ever since she lost her baby, it's like she's given up." 3 months ago, Nia's world had collapsed. Her infant, born fragile and small, had stopped breathing in the night. Nia's wails had torn through the preserve, raw and primal, as she clutched the lifeless body, her massive arms trembling with a grief too vast to contain. The keepers had no choice but to intervene, gently prying the infant from her grasp. But when they took her baby, they took something else, something vital, something that left Nia hollow. She stopped grooming, stopped playing, stopped responding to the other gorillas or the keepers who'd known her for a decade. She was a mother without a child, a soul drowning in sorrow. Visitors streamed past her enclosure, some pausing to tap the reinforced glass or call her name, hoping for a reaction. They got nothing. Nia's grief was a fortress, unyielding, built from the ruins of her loss. Most moved on, disappointed by her stillness, eager for the spectacle of leaping monkeys or prowling tigers. But Lucas didn't. Small for his 9 years, with unruly brown curls and eyes that carried a quiet wisdom, he lingered at the glass. He didn't shout or wave like the other kids. He just stood there, his scuffed sneakers planted firm, his hand resting lightly against the cool surface. And then everything changed. Lucas's school group was a chaotic swarm of third graders, their voices a cacophony of excitement as they raced through the preserve. They'd already torn through the reptile house and the aviary, barely pausing to gawk at the flamingos before charging toward the gorilla sanctuary. Most pressed their faces to the glass, giggling and banging their fists, hoping to stir Nia from her trance. When she didn't budge, they lost interest, their chatter fading as they moved on to the snack stand. But Lucas stayed. Something about Nia's stillness, her heavy silence, pulled him in. He didn't know why, but he felt it, a tug deep in his chest, like a memory he couldn't grasp. He pressed his hand to the glass, his palms small and pale against the thick barrier. For weeks, Nia hadn't reacted to anything, not the keepers coaxing, not the other gorillas nudging her, not the endless stream of visitors. But now her fingers twitched, her head tilted, slow and deliberate, and her eyes, dulled by grief, lifted to meet his. The connection was electric. The air seemed to hum. Nia's gaze locked onto Lucas's, unblinking, her nostrils flaring as if she were breathing him in. The crowd around them froze, parents clutching their kids, phones raised to capture the moment. Nia rose, her massive frame unfolding with a grace that belied her size. One step, then another, each heavy footfall echoing like a heartbeat. She crossed the enclosure, something she hadn't done in over a month, and stopped directly in front of Lucas. Her breath fogged the glass. Then, with a gentleness that made the onlookers hold their breath, Nia lifted her hand and pressed it against the glass, her broad palm aligning perfectly with Lucas's. The moment was sacred, fragile, as if the world had paused to witness it. Lucas didn't flinch. His eyes, wide and steady, held hers, like they were sharing a secret no one else could hear. The crowd swelled, murmurs rippling through it, but Nia didn't care. She only saw the boy. Headkeeper Rachel Harper arrived, her boots crunching on the gravel path, her radio buzzing with updates. She stopped short, her breath catching at the sight. "She's touching the glass," she whispered, disbelief lacing her voice. "She hasn't done that since." Her words trailed off. "Not since the baby died." Rachel's eyes narrowed as she studied Lucas, his small frame dwarfed by Nia's towering presence. Something about him felt familiar, but she couldn't place it. Not yet. Nia's hand stayed pressed against the glass, her fingers splayed wide, unmoving. Lucas mirrored her, his palm steady, his gaze unwavering. The crowd's murmurs grew softer, reverent. Some wiped tears from their eyes, others stood in quiet awe. A zookeeper radioed in, her voice tight. "Nia's engaging." First interaction in 34 days. Rachel stepped closer, her brow furrowing. Nia's posture wasn't just attentive, it was personal, almost human. Then Nia moved again. Her free hand rose, slow and deliberate, her fingers curling and uncurling in a pattern that wasn't random. Rachel's breath hitched. It was sign language, rough, basic signs Nia had learned years ago during a bonding program with staff and visitors. The movements were stiff, unpracticed, but deliberate. She was trying to say something. Rachel whispered, stepping toward the glass, "She's signing." Lucas tilted his head, curious but unafraid. If anything, he looked calmer now than before, his hand still pressed against the glass. His mother, Emily Reed, finally stepped closer, her voice soft but urgent. "Lucas, honey, come on." But he didn't move. Rachel turned to Emily, her mind racing. "What did you say his name was?" she asked. "Emily Reed," she replied, confused. "This is Lucas." Rachel froze, a chill running down her spine. "It can't be," she muttered. "I'll be right back." She rushed toward the staff office, her heart pounding. Inside, she tore through archived files, old paperwork, program rosters, therapy logs. Years ago, Nia had been part of a short-lived human-animal bonding program designed to test emotional connectivity between gorillas and visitors, especially children. Rachel found it, a logbook, its pages yellowed but intact. Her eyes locked onto an entry. Mother, Emily Reed. Son, Lucas Reed. Weekly visits for 5 months. Discontinued after infant loss. Rachel's fingers tightened on the page. She fumbled for a file of photos and found one, dated nearly 6 years ago. A tiny toddler in a blue baseball cap, pressing his hand to the glass. Nia's pregnant form towering on the other side. It was Lucas, younger, smaller, but unmistakably him. Back at the enclosure, Nia had sat down in front of Lucas, her hand still on the glass. Her eyes locked on a child she hadn't seen in years. The crowd saw a beautiful moment. Rachel now saw something deeper. "She remembers him," she whispered, clutching the photo in her shaking hand. She rushed back to the enclosure, her heart hammering. The crowd was still gathered, and Nia hadn't moved an inch. Lucas sat cross-legged on the ground now, as if this was the most natural place in the world. Rachel knelt beside Emily. "Do you remember coming here years ago?" she asked softly. Emily hesitated, her brow furrowing. "Yes, when Lucas was little. I was going through a rough time, and someone suggested the zoo's bonding program. I thought it was just a distraction, but Lucas loved it." Rachel showed her the photo. Emily gasped, "That's us." Lucas leaned in, studying the toddler in the picture. "That's me?" he whispered. Rachel nodded. Nia was pregnant then. She connected with you more than anyone else in the program. You used to sit here just like this every week. Lucas tilted his head, his voice soft. I don't remember. But Nia did. The gorilla shifted suddenly, gently but with purpose. She lowered herself further, almost belly to the ground, and began tapping the glass in a slow, rhythmic pattern. 3 taps, a pause, then 2. It was a game, a memory. Lucas blinked, his fingers moving instinctively to mirror the pattern. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap. Nia's lips parted slightly and she let out a soft, guttural rumble, a sound no one had heard from her in months. Rachel watched, stunned. It's their pattern, she said. They used to play that game before she gave birth. He'd tap and she'd mimic him. Lucas looked up at Rachel, his eyes wide. Did she miss me? Rachel swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. I think she never forgot you. The crowd's murmurs shifted, less spectacle now, more reverence. Some wiped away tears. A father pulled his daughter closer. Then Nia did something unexpected. She began to sway, slow and rhythmic, her massive arms curving inward, as if cradling something, or someone. Lucas watched her silently, his head lowering, a flicker of something unnameable crossing his face. He whispered, She's pretending I'm her baby. No one corrected him, because he might be right. Emily knelt beside her son, her hand hovering near his shoulder. Sweetheart, she whispered, unsure what to say. But Lucas spoke first. It's okay, Nia, he said softly. I'm here now. And somehow, that was enough. Nia let out a low grunt, laid her arm along the ground, and rested her head on it, still facing the boy. For the first time in 3 months, her eyes closed, not in sorrow, but in peace. Morning turned to midday, but Nia didn't move from the glass. Neither did Lucas. They sat across from one another, the crowd thinning, the novelty replaced by something weightier. The keepers cordoned off the area, their faces somber. There were no jokes now, no selfies, just silence and the soft, constant thump of Lucas's fingers tapping the glass. Rachel stood nearby, her radio crackling with updates. No signs of agitation, she reported. Vitals are stable. Appetite's back. Her assistant's voice came through, hesitant. Then why does it feel so fragile? Because it is, Rachel said. What happens when he goes home? Inside the enclosure, Nia began gathering objects, leaves, a scrap of burlap, the broken remains of an old toy. She stacked them carefully near the glass. Rachel recognized the behavior instantly. She's nesting, she muttered. She's making a bed for him. Emily, watching from a nearby bench, pressed her hands over her mouth. Lucas spoke up, his voice small but clear. Can I give her something? Rachel paused, then nodded. Lucas reached into his backpack and pulled out a small stuffed bear, frayed but well-loved, its button eyes glinting in the sunlight. He pressed it gently against the glass. Nia froze, her eyes locking onto the toy. Slowly, cautiously, she lifted a hand and mirrored the gesture, her palm against the bear's reflection. A soft exhale left her throat, and she took her burlap scrap and folded it over the toy's image, like a blanket. Rachel turned to Emily, her voice low. She's parenting. She's gone full maternal. I think she believes he's come back to her. Emily's voice was quiet. And if he leaves again? Rachel didn't answer. At the administration office, the staff debated fiercely. Was this healthy? Dangerous? What if Nia regressed when Lucas stopped visiting? What if this bond spiraled into obsession? But Rachel pushed back. She's healing, she insisted. Slowly, gently. This boy, he's the key. A plan formed, monitored weekly visits, under strict supervision, not just for Nia's sake, but for Lucas's too. Because something had changed in him since that day. His mother noticed it first. He was sleeping better, eating more, talking more. The spark in his eyes, dimmed by years of quiet struggles, was back. The next week, Lucas returned. Nia was already waiting at the glass, her eyes bright with anticipation. This time, Lucas brought a drawing. Nia cradling a baby gorilla, a boy standing beside her. When he held it up, Nia grunted softly, then leaned forward and pressed her forehead to the glass. Lucas did the same, and for a moment there were no keepers, no enclosure, no years lost between them. There was only recognition and love. The story went viral within hours. A gorilla, a boy, a silent reunion after 6 years apart. Millions watched the footage of Nia pressing her forehead to the glass, cradling the reflection of a stuffed bear, rocking gently beside a child she hadn't seen in half a decade, but never forgot. News vans crowded the preserve's entrance. Reporters begged for interviews. Some called it proof of animal memory. Others dismissed it as emotional projection. But those who were there knew they'd seen something real. Inside her enclosure, Nia waited by the glass every day. Lucas visited weekly now, accompanied by keepers and his mother. Each time, Nia greeted him with slow, deliberate movements. No pacing, no grief shrieks, just the steady rhythm of a mother who'd found her purpose again. Rachel, watching from a distance, saw what no data could explain. "She's alive again," she told the board at a special review meeting. "Not just surviving, living." The board approved funding for enrichment, therapy, even an expansion of the human-animal bonding program. Still, Rachel hesitated. What happens if Lucas stops coming? The question loomed like a storm. Then came unexpected news. Lucas had begun asking about those early visits, about why they'd stopped. Emily, after years of shielding him, told the truth. "We lost someone too," she said gently, showing him an old photo of a man with kind eyes, his arms around toddler Lucas. "Your dad. When he passed, I couldn't face anything. Not even this place." Lucas listened, quiet, processing. "Nia was the only thing that calmed you," Emily added. "You used to call her Mama Naya." He didn't remember the name, but when he said it aloud at the enclosure, Nia let out a deep, resonant sigh, as if she'd been waiting to hear it again. Lucas started drawing her. Dozens of sketches. Nia with him, Nia with her baby, Nia watching the world through the glass. Rachel collected them, taping them inside the staff office. "He's her closure," she said to herself, "but maybe she's his too." One cloudy afternoon, Lucas placed his latest drawing on the glass. Nia standing strong, holding hands with a smaller gorilla beside her. Rachel knelt beside him. "We found one," she said. Lucas looked up. "A baby gorilla, orphaned, scared. We think she's ready." The day the baby arrived, the staff held their breath. The crate opened, and Nia watched from a distance, slow and cautious. The infant stepped forward, wobbly, wide-eyed, alone. Then Nia moved, not fast, not hesitant, just sure. She sat beside the baby, and the infant pressed against her leg. For the first time since losing her own child, Nia wrapped her arms around another. Outside, Lucas watched, quiet tears streaming down his face. He didn't press his hand to the glass this time. He just whispered, "You don't have to miss me anymore." Nia's story spread far beyond Willow Creek, touching hearts across the globe. It was a reminder that grief, though heavy, is not the end. That love, even across species, even across time, can heal what seems broken. Lucas learned something too. That connection, no matter how fleeting, leaves a mark that never fades. He carried Nia's strength with him, a quiet courage that helped him face his own losses, his own questions about the father he barely remembered. And Nia, with a new infant to care for, found purpose again, her eyes bright with a light that had been gone too long. The preserve expanded its bonding program, inspired by Nia and Lucas, to foster connections that heal both animals and people. Lucas still visited, though less often as the years passed. Each time, Nia greeted him with a soft grunt, a tap on the glass, a look that said she'd never forget. Their story became a beacon, a testament to the power of memory, love, and the unbreakable bonds that tie us to one another, no matter how vast the distance. What would you do if someone remembered you after all those years? Nia and Lucas remind us that grief runs deep, but love runs deeper. Some bonds, forged in the quiet moments, never break. They bend, they stretch, but they hold, across time, across silence, across the glass.